I got this question from David. What advice would you give to a first-year OT student who wants to become a CHT? Are there any resources you would recommend to begin studying at this point to prepare? So thanks for that question, David. My name is Huang. I'm an occupational therapist and certified hand therapist, and I'm here to help OTs develop their clinical skills, their business skills, so that they can have more choices in their career. So I think if you're a first year OT student and you want to become a CHT, you want to think about your journey, right? So if you're an OT student, right, it requires a minimum of 3 years. So you graduate, right? Graduate OT school. It's going to take in order to sit for the CHT exam, you need 3 years minimum. 3 years minimum, 4,000 hours as a clinician in upper extremity management. You don't have to be, it's not in here. You don't have to be in an outpatient setting. You don't have to be working under a CHT. You just have to have 4,000 hours in upper extremity management, okay? Now, I have a whole guide that I have created that helps you to think about what's true, right? The various steps, the resources, books, and all that good stuff. If you're an OT student, really what you need to think about is not studying for the CHT, right? This is a dream. But if you start taking action over here towards this, you're so far removed. It's so far removed that you cannot even really take action. What books are you going to study? You can't study any books. You don't even know how to evaluate, right? So school gives you the foundational knowledge to learn what you need to consider as an occupational therapist. So you can have this goal in mind, and if you think about your brain as a filing cabinet, you're going to take that idea, you're going to file it to the back, right? And then at some point along the way, it's going to come to the center of your brain when you're almost ready, right? So what do you need to do in school? You need to freaking pass. Like, you don't need to be an A student. I was not an A student. I was a B student. And I struggled to be a B student. I got some A's, but it just didn't come easy for me. I wasn't trying to be perfect. I wasn't trying to get A's. I didn't give a shit about my GPA for the most part. I actually did, but I didn't know that I didn't need to, right? So I tell people, you don't need to have this great GPA. You just need to have the GPA that's going to help you pass and not get kicked out of the program, right? And that's it. If you already know that you want to become a certified hand therapist and you don't want to do anything else, then you have to, the number one thing that I always tell students, right? Students, is to make sure that your clinical field work has something related to hands, has something related to adults. Because when you get out of school, it gives you a better chance of getting hired into positions that could lead you towards becoming a CHT. Now, in school, all I did was I worked to pass my classes. I studied in a way to help me pass my boards eventually, right? So foundational to then pass your boards. I took things seriously like strokes, neuro, whatever, science, even pediatrics. I studied that. And then what I did was I just made sure along the way, everyone freaking knew I wanted to be a CHT. That was it. I wasn't, like if there was a lecture and there's CHT, wow, what can I learn from you? What can I ask you questions? This and that and the other, because they had the experience. But I made sure that my fieldwork coordinator set me up with a hand placement. Now, there are some schools, I've worked with some schools where they really discourage it. And it pisses me off, to be really perfectly honest. Why would they discourage you if you know that you want that, right? They should be, your coordinator should be helping you to find placements that are available to them. And if it's not available to them, they need to go and look. They need to go and look and find placements for you. You didn't pay this school so that you could go and find all your placements, right? And so I don't know. That's a whole soapbox I can get on, but make sure that your placement gives you the experience. So my first, like, we had to do a psych and a phys diz, right? So I want the psych one. I wanted to. You only had so many choices. I moved up to North Carolina for 3 months. I rented an apartment, lived on the floor for 3 months. Went to this internship that wasn't all that great, but I did my psych internship for 3 months. It's funny because the harder your internship, the more developed and the more skilled you come out of it, right? When it's easy, you might not learn anything. And that's the issue. It's like sometimes we're always looking for that easy thing because you feel like school is so hard, you need this break. But field work is where you learn all your skills. So you don't, and your clinical instructor, your CI really makes a difference between when you learn or don't learn, right? But you show up every day and you say, what you want to do, how you want to learn. And if they don't create a great environment, then you take what you can because, I mean, what else are you gonna do? And then you learn, like, from whatever they're teaching you so that you can come out and get a job. Like my biggest things when I take students, my biggest thing is when I take students is that I make sure that the skills that they develop with me will help them land a job. Will then go and say, hey, I know how to evaluate. Give me that job. I know how to treat this. Give me that job. I know how to do a treatment, progress someone. Give me that job. So my experience is when I take students, if you're leaving and you say you worked with Huang Tran and you were, at hands-on therapy services, you should be able to go out there and get a job, right? So as an OT student, that's what you need to do. Get into a clinical placement that's going to help you. My second one was physics. I worked in a skilled nursing facility and had like a small outpatient center for geriatrics, right? Skilled nursing, older people. It's still hands and arms. I still got great experience. And that experience led me into getting hospital-based insurance, hospital-based settings when I graduated, because I was able to say, yeah, I worked in a subacute hospital. I also got a job in a skilled nursing facility when I first graduated. So those things led me into getting into hospital-based positions that led me to learning even more about wound care. Now, my specialty internship back in the day, I did, it was another 3 months. I did half burns and half hands. And so between the two, I did a lot of splinting. I did a certain amount of wound care. I did, what else did I do? Yeah, I just did like a bunch of different things. Oh, when I did my phys diz, no, when I did my psych internship, since I was in North Carolina, I asked my CI's permission to connect with the burn unit that was there. So I was barely doing anything in my rotations, so much so that I ended up getting a part-time job because I was bored shitless. And so I actually went and spent a few days at the burn unit at NYC. Is it no UNC? Was it UNC or Duke? Something like that. I think it was UNC. It was but yeah, I went and spent like a few days a week at their burn unit, and I got that exposure, that experience. And then when I did my internship in hands and burns, that also solidified a little bit of what I knew, right? I knew what I wanted. I knew some experience, and I got my splinting experience there, my burn experience there. I actually taught splinting as my project, which is really funny to see because to look back, because now I have Orthosis 101, and that's essentially what I had taught those therapists at that time as my project, drawing out the pattern, like the whole thing. So So yeah, it was really cool. My internships set me up. Now I didn't come out and get a job right away in hands. I did not. Some people do, but I did not. I worked in a skilled nursing, and then I worked in acute care at a small hospital, and then I worked in a bigger acute care hospital, which then gave me even more wound care, even more hands and upper extremity, very acute cases. And then that's what led me to becoming a CHT. And back then it was 5 years that you had to be. And so keep your long-term goals in mind, but work on your short-term goals and your short-term achievements currently, right? And then that will lead you to it. Now, you graduate, life's going to beat the shit out of you. Your career's going to beat the shit out of you. Your life's going to beat the shit out of you. And what you want to make sure you do is keep that dotted line intact. I almost lost it because I came out. I hated being OT. I say this often because I did not love being an OT my first 3 years. I hated that shit because I didn't know what I was doing. I felt, what you guys would call burnt out now. I was just tired. I was like, this shit sucks. But it sucks because I sucked, right? Who's willing to own up to the fact that you suck, right? I sucked. I mean, I did the best I could. I don't think I harmed anyone. And I have a fun enough personality that people still enjoyed working with me. But did I have the clinical skills to really, be like, wow, No, I didn't. And so because I sucked, then my career sucked. And I almost lost that dotted line to my goal. And I don't know what happened was like, I decided that I was either going to be happy or I was going to go back to school, right? I was either going to be happy. So it's a choice. I was going to be happy and start spending money to develop my skills, or I was going to spend my money and go back to school. My husband was at the time working for and I could have gone back to school for free and gotten my business degree. And I was like, the hell I'm going to go back to school and get a business degree for? I'm going to go back and get a business degree and then find that because I have no experience in business, I'm going to be in the same freaking boat because I'm not good, right? So I decided to be happy and get good. And because I decided to be happy and get good, I started spending my money on like taking more classes than most people were taking at the time. I started putting my freaking resume together and applying for jobs that I could say no to. If I could say no to a job because I didn't need it, because I didn't want it, because my job actually, it proved to me that my job was good. And that if I had patience and kept working on the things I need to work on, that I would eventually get the thing that I wanted, which is to get to the exam and to pass, right? Keep your dreams alive. Keep a hold on it. If they come back around, if you're not ready for it, put it to the back of your mind like a file, right? But keep it back there. Don't just discard it just because you're not getting what you want. So that's my advice for a first year OT student who wants to become a CHT. Let me know your comments below if this was helpful. And if you want to share your experience, leave it below too. I would love to hear more about it. All right. Until next time. Peace out.